need. Oh, no, no. You're misbehaving. Yeah, it's getting to me. It's not the ending. You can give anything, so you can go, go, go. Go, 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 go. Yeah, so I can focus. I just need to focus on myself. Oh, you better go, go, go. Go, 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 go. Yeah, so I can focus. I just need to focus on myself. Yeah, so you can go, go, go. Go, 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 go. So I can focus. I just need to focus on myself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You better go, go, go. Go, 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 go. So I can focus. I just need to focus on myself, baby, baby. Hear it on the phone. If you got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology. Just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're so. And I quit my job for you, even quit some friends for you, 'cause you couldn't stand it, me all independent, so you had to have me for yourself. That was when I trusted you, when I could add up 2 and 2, when you promised we'd be together, you, me, forever. Now there's nothing left to lose. And though I understand it's hard sometimes to make up your mind in these trying times, yeah, I just can't accept you leaving me when I'm overseas with the heart so heavy. Think that I deserve the truth for once, not a guilty tone, 'cause you're not alone, yeah. You said you wanna come home, but I know you don't. So this time I won't hear it all.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Today is Thursday, February 24th, 2022. And if you have been tuned into the news, you do realize where we are in the world right now. The world is a little bit closer to all-out war because of the actions of Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine. We're going to be discussing that at great lengths this morning. I'll be joined, as always, by Dr. Carl Mack, who is going to bring his insight. We're going to also be speaking to the rest of the team. Georgia Fort will be here on the clock. We have to keep our eye on the fight for justice here in the United States of America, and the fact that case after case, we are inundated with police shootings of Black people. So we simultaneously have to keep our eye on the ball of what's happening here in the United States, as well as what's happening globally. We will be joined by Terrell Starr. He is the foreign affairs journalist and non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, senior reporter for The Root. He is going to be joining us live from Kiev as soon as we're able to connect with him. He has been on the show before, friend of the show, a good brother who has put his life and commitment, quite honestly, to the people of Ukraine. And so we'll be speaking directly to him from Kiev. And then we'll also be joined by Al Rutherford, who is Associate Director of Presidential Advance to President Clinton and managing partner of Rutherford and Associates. We'll get their insight as it pertains to what's happening across the world. Really briefly, let me just say this. Our job here at the morning show is to balance all of this. There's a lot going on in the backdrop of the invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin, the pandemic that is ongoing, what they think is the renaissance of white supremacy. I mean, we are tracking Nazis and fascists and white supremacists all over the country. There's a lot going on, and we have the responsibility of breaking the news to you without breaking you. And we also are going to bring insight because we have analysis. We've got all that. And we also have a DJ. Let me bring in Dr. Carl Mack, who is here this morning. Dr. Mack, as always, it is a pleasure. We traded positions this morning. I am normally in the suit and tie, but I had some grappling to do this morning with what's going on in Ukraine. Thank you for joining us. How are you this morning? I'm very good, my brother. A little, probably like the rest of the world should be, in just disbelief of what we knew was inevitable, but to actually see it play out, it's just a totally different ball game. So it's very troubling. Absolutely. And what we'll do while we're still attempting to connect with our brother Terrell Starr in Kiev, I want to go ahead and bring in brother Al Rutherford into the conversation. And again, brother Al Rutherford is first time joining the show. Good morning to you. He is the Associate Director of Presidential Advance to President Clinton and managing partner of Rutherford and Associates. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, brother Dixon. It's a pleasure to be with you. Absolutely. And Dr. Mack, go ahead, Dr. Mack.
Well, Ben, let me jump in here because Big Homie, that's what you would know him as Mr. Rutherford. I know him as Big Homie, but Big Homie is no longer with the Clinton administration, but was with them for 7 years. And he and I had a professional relationship when I was executive director of the National Society of Black Engineers. He's an SMU graduate, and history and politics is his forte. So, Big Homie, with that being said, welcome to the show.
Hey, Big Skillet. Good morning. Good to see you. Brother Dixon, I refer to him as Big Skillet. So we kind of go back a little bit.
This is all proper. I really appreciate this, quite honestly, because if we're going to discuss the geopolitical situation that really has us at the precipice of an existential crisis, I want to do it with some brothers who refer to each other as Big Skillet and Big Homie. So, gentlemen, let's begin. The first clip I want to play is the clip of Vladimir Putin saying that he's going in to demilitarize Ukraine. I don't want to saddle it with my commentary yet, but there's a lot to say about the arrogance of this next clip.
The People's Republic of Donbass asked Russia for help. In this regard, under Article 51, Part 7th of the Charter of the United Nations, with the approval of the Russian State Federal Council, and in accordance with the Friendship and Mutual Assistance Treaties with the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic, ratified by the Russian Parliament on February 22nd, I decided to conduct a special military operation. It aims to protect people who have been bullied and subjected to genocide by the Kiev regime for 8 years. For that, we will strive to demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, and will bring to justice those who committed multiple bloody crimes against civilians, including Russian citizens.
And you're looking at footage of the skyline of the attacks.
Now, Al, I know that there are many people today who still feel like they were caught off guard, that they really didn't think that Putin would go in. And I distinctly remember you and I having discussions almost 2 weeks ago, and I asked you the question, will Putin invade? So if you could give us some insight.
Sure, no problem. Well, first off, let's understand a couple of things. One, Putin is lying, okay? The concept of why he is going in with this idea of demilitarization and denazification is ridiculous. So you got to understand who Putin is. Putin is an old line KGB guy who grew up in what was then the Soviet Union. And what he is trying to do, and he has said this before, is to regain the Russian Empire. And so he is going into Ukraine as part of that move to get back what he feels is his. But the concept, he is in essence made himself even more of a war criminal, and his arrogance has led him down a path that we see now with him attempting to go into Ukraine.
But again, Al, why is it not surprising to you that he actually entered Ukraine?
Well, Carl, here's the thing. The man has told you what he wanted to do and what he planned to do a long time ago. Putin has been in office in one way or the other for 20 years. And he said he wants the Russian Empire back. But specific to your question is this: you don't put 190,000 troops on the border overnight. This is a buildup that has taken months. He has 75% of the Russian military on the border with Ukraine. There's only 25% of the Russian military spread out through 8 different time zones in Russia. It would be easier for us to come in from Alaska and hit him hard as opposed to him, beating up on the people in Ukraine.
I want to ask you a question. Again, thank you for being here this morning. There was something that he said there that I think also we need insight on. He said the denazification of Ukraine. And in the circles that I run in, I've also seen that language from some Americans who are asserting that we should not have any sympathy for any Ukrainian because there's a couple of Nazis over there who are nationalists who are fighting against Putin. Help us to understand why that language is being used by someone who is not too far from a Nazi himself.
Great question, Brother Dixon, because he truly is. I mean, he will go down likely in that, same category of despot dictator like Stalin was. His level of genocide is not, obviously as high as Hitler. But when you start stacking dictators on one side, you can certainly put him high on the list. Denazification is, well, first off, show me some evidence of Nazis running down the street in Ukraine and doing all the things that he said they're doing. There is none. So let's not be thrown off track by what is really taking place in Ukraine, in Donetsk and Luhansk. You've got Russian speakers there who he's using this pretense of we got to protect them because they've issued passports to them. But the bottom line is you don't get in this day and age, you don't get to create countries out of somebody else's country.
That's right.
And you can try and confuse people with terms like Nazification. I've got to clear them out. What you're talking about is a problem in essence that don't exist. And you got to make stuff up in order to justify going in. And the idea of demilitarizing Ukraine, I mean, that's laughable.
Now, Big Homie, the other thing as it applies to Ukraine, you know, I gotta have a feeling that Ukraine's got to be feeling some kind of way, given what they used to represent, you know, what they had in the way of protecting themselves. And so, if you could give us some insight to that, how did they get that way and why did they lose their power of protection on a world stage?
Sure. What you're talking about is the fact that Ukraine had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world behind the United States and Russia when they were part of the Soviet Union. Okay. And as they moved forward as a separate country, they were approached and given a deal that says, if you will give up your nuclear arsenal, we will ensure your security. And Ukraine gave up their nuclear arsenal, and now they are looking to the world for some real serious help here. And what they're asking for is more than sanctions. But that's why Ukraine feels some kind of way. That's why Zelensky, went to Munich last week for the Munich summit to ask these countries that had said, look, you give up your nuclear weapons, we got your back. Yeah. So he's asking right now, are y'all way back? But where are y'all right now? Because it's on.
Brother Al, I have to say, and you're in reference to the Budapest memorandum, which you're speaking of, the United States. I just want to list the people who were in part of that. What you were talking about. The United States, the United Kingdom, China, and France gave assurances, but Russia itself gave the biggest assurance that it would create this environment where Ukraine could have sovereignty. And yet now they played a really long game. I mean, this was not yesterday that this happened. They have been playing a long game, and now their sovereignty has been breached overnight.
You're absolutely right. I mean, they gave up their nuclear weapons for what we refer to as security guarantees. And now we see that they are not secure. Their borders have been breached. There are at least 200,000 troops that could be moving into Kiev, to Mariupol, to Kharkiv. I mean, throughout the country. It's as you said in the Budapest memorandum, it showed the countries that said, we got your back. You ain't seen not one of them put a troop on the ground to help them. And even if you don't put troops on the ground, why didn't you build up their defenses so that they could defend themselves? If you say, listen, I can't go in and put boots on the ground, at least give the people something that they can defend themselves with, more than blankets and helmets, at least.
Yeah, I want to just, Brother Mac, I'm going to toss it back to you, but I just want to give an update on our brother Terrell Starr. We spoke to him about 2 hours ago. He was packing a backpack on the go there in Kiev. He's safe for now, as much as we know, but we haven't heard back from him. But as soon as we hear from him, he will be joining us directly from Kiev. Brother Mac. And
all on bended knees for our brother in his safety. So thank you. Now, Al, I look at this in this worst case scenario of, on the brink of World War III. So can you describe, like right now, one of the things that scares me is if we don't do anything and we allow Putin to just come in there and take Ukraine, give me a kind of domino effect of what you think maybe the next geopolitical move could be if NATO does nothing here.
Well, I think you've got to be concerned about, one, what's going on in Europe, but I also think you have to be concerned about how Xi in China is going to view this.
That's right. With
regard to Taiwan. So that's truly the longer play. But in the immediate, I got to be concerned if I'm one of the old Warsaw Pact countries like Poland or Romania that's now in NATO, because if Putin is saying no more NATO expansion around me, I want to be able to not see these democracies, around me. You got a real problem, and especially when he talks about wanting to roll back NATO to 1997, what that means is countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, and of course Poland would not have membership in NATO, and so it's very important to see how NATO does respond.
So Putin has literally put that on the table that he wants to see NATO roll back to 1997, where these countries are not in his backyard as members of NATO.
He absolutely has. Yes, that was one of his key negotiating points all along in this conversation. But that in this diplomatic dance that was done in the lead up to the invasion.
Okay. And so
go ahead, brother.
What do you think would have to happen? Is there any possibility that NATO is going to put boots on the ground in this situation? What would it take in your mind?
A punch into Poland, a punch into Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, hit a direct NATO country, and then you must invoke Article 5.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Which is why I think, this is actually, I don't want to give that commentary. Let me take a step back and ask you this question. Could you help us to understand and to modernize this conversation a little bit? Because this is not the Cold War anymore, even though it has the hallmarks of the Cold War. We have the aspirations of Putin to expand the Russian empire. But I listen to words very clearly. He's not talking about bringing back the Soviet Union. He's talking about the Russian Empire, the Orthodox Church that he's aligned with, the oligarchs, the billionaires, right? He's not trying to bring Mother Russia and socialism and the great cause of Lenin, all that stuff. He's in bed with some of the richest and most powerful people in the world. Help us to understand why are they fighting against each other? Because why aren't their oligarchs just having a big party with our oligarchs? Because ain't they after the same thing at this point? What's going on here?
Hey, man, it's dollars and cents. And let's talk about for a minute the stockpile that Putin has built up. He's got about $680 billion that he has put to the side to help him weather any kind of sanctions. And when we look at the move that he is making, as you said, he is not about Stalinist or Leninist or Marxist ideology. What he wants to do is expand the Russian empire as far out as possible. He's looking at a legacy play now. He's 70 years old. He can be in office for another 14 years. And what he is attempting to do is put himself in a category similar to the czars.
That's right.
Russian empire is
right.
what he is about. And he has made these oligarchs billions. Yeah. And in turn, they have made him billions. Okay. But arrogance, he can't be happy with being the leader, the dictator of this, 8-9 time zone country. He's got to expand out as far as he can go so that he will be heralded in Russian history as the greatest leader since the czars.
Since the czars, that's so important because he came after Stalin. Not that Stalin was somebody who should be protected. Go after him. I don't care. But he's more like Tsar Nicholas II than he is Lenin.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had that in the
He is about his wealth. Now, let's make no mistake about that. He is about his wealth and his comfort.
So big homie.
And you have to look at, pardon me, Big Skiller, but you have to look at how he was brought up, where he grew up in St. Petersburg, and he was impoverished and just had nothing, and he went to KGB school and tried to prop up the government and ultimately saw it fall. And I would be willing to bet you, Carl, that if you look back, this man didn't get no hugs. He didn't get no love growing up. He got bullied on the playground.
Man, you just saved my show. I was wondering, how am I going to balance this thing out? Thank you, Brother Rutherford. I needed that.
Hey, bro,
my God.
This is what's up. I mean, if
you just stopped my wife from having to come back here and bring me off the brink. Because that man needed a hug from his daddy, didn't he?
That man needed a hug at some point, man. And look, I can tell you some things that happened on the playground that he's probably remembering today. And he's trying to inflict damage on people because of that. See, this right here, you don't grow to this level of arrogance and unfeeling and uncaring overnight. This is something that happened to you long, long ago, and you now are in a position to inflict pain on others.
Trauma of his childhood is now being exercised on Ukraine. On the people of Ukraine. We got a clip of Trump, but go ahead, Brother Mac. Sorry.
Let me ask this question. Do you think that, first of all, do you think that NATO is reacting as NATO should in a collective? And do you think it's something that, if they are, is it something that Putin maybe underestimated? Or is NATO acting in a manner that he fully expected them to?
I think NATO is responding, and NATO has been much more together than I think Putin expected.
I would agree.
He thought, and this goes back to Donald Trump's presidency, because Trump was doing everything he could to break up NATO.
That's right.
And so Biden had to come in and try and rebuild those alliances. And I think that Putin was expecting that there would be more of a fissure in NATO. Now, I will tell you this. I was surprised when Germany said that they were sanctioning Nord Stream 2 because they get,
I was pleased.
I was pleased as well. But let's understand that, we don't really know Schultz that well. We knew Angela Merkel. She had been in office for over a decade. We kind of knew what we could expect from her. Schultz, on the other hand, just coming to office, didn't really know. So I was pleasantly surprised. And I guess his meeting in Washington a couple of weeks ago, helped shore up the relationship. But that was a very strong move because, Germany is really Europe's banker. Yeah. And if Germany feels some pain from some oil and gas disruption, that has a potential ripple effect through Europe,
through their country and the reaction,
Germany and through the greater part of Europe there. So I was pleased. But Carl, going back to your question about how has NATO responded, I have been pleased to see that NATO has remained together. But I do believe that they should have been more thoughtful in supporting Ukraine from a defensive perspective. Because here's the thing. If you got a bad guy on your border, the first thing you want to do is try to deter him. Okay. Show him that if you come this way, you're going to have to pay a price. Okay. And the idea would have been to counter his buildup with a defensive buildup. That wasn't done. They didn't give under, kind of any lend-lease agreement a vast amount of defensive material. I heard this morning that all of the Ukrainian air defenses, for example, have been knocked out. So that means that, the Russian Air Force already had air superiority, right? But now they can do pretty much whatever they want with impunity. Whatever they want to. So could NATO and the United States have done more to put the Ukrainians in a better defensive position? Yes, I absolutely believe they could, because as I said earlier, this didn't happen overnight.
Right. Now, I want to run this question to you and Ben. Give me your thoughts. You know, since we're talking about United States portion of NATO and being a superpower, how did you all take the comments from Trump in his adoration of Putin as Putin is doing what he's doing?
Well, actually, before you answer that, if you don't mind, let's play the clip. We have that video, Trump complimenting Vladimir Putin. Let's take a look.
Said Putin's smart. I mean, he's taken over a country for $2 worth of sanctions. I'd say that's pretty smart. He's taking over a country, really a vast location, a great piece of land with a lot of people, and just walking right in. This would have never happened, ever in a million years would have never happened. And I know him very well. I know him probably almost as well as I know anybody in this room other than Doc Ronnie. Doc Ronnie knows me. Where's Doc Ronnie? Doc Ronnie. Doc Ronnie knows me too well.
Any Western nation or any nation intervenes with this Russian military action?
Well, this is something that should have never happened. This would not have happened during my administration. In fact, some people were saying, why didn't this take place over the last 4 years during our administration? And it didn't for a very good reason, and I'll explain that to you someday. But it wouldn't have taken place, and it wouldn't have taken place right now. And it's a very sad thing for the world, for the country, and it's certainly very sad for a lot of people that are going to be needlessly killed. And now he sees the weakness and the incompetence and the stupidity of this administration. And as an American, I'm angry about it, and I'm saddened by it. And it all happened because of a rigged election. This would have never happened.
My God. I'm going to yield. I yield to you, Brother Rutherford.
Well, there's so much to unpack in that volume of lies that Donald Trump spews. But and everything for him has to go back to the big lie. But let's talk about that's a treasonous type of statement. Coming from a former president of the United States. That's what to me is so disconcerting. But it's not surprising because Donald Trump is who he is. And we know who he is because we saw him up close for 4 or 5 years. And so to praise a man for a war crime gives you an idea of who he is. And I mean, he has shown us time and time again. And so I don't know what Putin has on him. I don't know if he's got tapes on him from the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow or, I can't speak to that because I don't know. But to have this type of sycophantic relationship with a man who is committing a war crime, because let's understand, you cannot just say that particular piece of land over there in Ukraine is now independent and I'm going to roll in tanks and troops to support it. You don't get to do that. That is a war crime. And when you align yourself with a war criminal, you have put yourself in a box where we have to go, shame, shame, shame. You aren't right mentally either.
Brother Mac, to answer, I think we're dealing with people so committed to their whiteness that they would rather see the world dominated by somebody like Vladimir Putin than black folk. And I think their commitment to this pan-reactionary movement is treasonous, but their treason is familiar. They've declared themselves, they seceded before. They like the idea of being able to separate themselves from this democracy in order to get their way. It was the Civil War. And I think that we're just seeing a flare-up. I don't want to call it a renaissance. It's a flare-up of the Confederacy aligning with Russia. That's my thought.
Well, listen, Ben, and Big Homie, I'm not sure what your time is. Ben, I'm not sure where we are in the show.
We're going to go to a quick break. We'll go to the quick break. And if you can hang out, we can carry the conversation over into On the Clock. All right, let's do that. We'll be back with more of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show right after this.
When I go with confidence, when I go to the road, I hips and take my sip on it, take a trip on it. When I go, you can go slow, wind it up all night, baby, take your time, let me know what I want. When you turn me around, what I want. When the neighbors yell turn down, we keep it going, like bum bum bum.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, people. It's your man, James Bubba Williams, DJ Exclusive is in the building. Morning, y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got more coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. On the clock for Georgia Fort is next. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned.
Shine bright like royalty. We not stay keep a day guarantee. And why? So kinda in a get started. You waiting on me to solve it.
Hey, y'all make sure y'all check Slack, man. Jordan just sent the message.
Last weekend, you had me thinking. Almost kicked in and let my head up. Like bum bum bum. Throw it back in rotation. Cigarettes in the season. Shine bright as the season. Girl, you know you are a jam, 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 jam. Jam, 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 jam. Jam, 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 jam. Sounding like you're wasting every time.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Australia. What's going on, Mark? Welcome. Haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see you, Snack Pepper. Good morning to you. Sunny Wright, good morning. First, last, first. Good morning. Good morning, Mama and Daddy. Good morning, Mama and Daddy. Love y'all, mean it. Wide Written Wired, good morning. Latino Miss New Kiki Streets, good morning.
Jam, 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 jam. Jam, 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 jam. Jam, jam, jam.
Shout out, Brother Chuck Beasley slaying early this morning. I see. Good morning, Brother Chuck. Alicia, good morning. Twin Singapore, good morning to you. Sunny White, good morning.
Ooh, that sugar sweet. You got what I need. Sipping on the potion. All that good emotion. Just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat.
Hey, Miss Funky, good morning. Green, good morning to you. Rachel, good morning. Sam, what's up? Melanie Dennis, good morning.
Every time, every night, you and I on a roll.
GL the Sun, good morning. You know what happens like that sometimes. Lily, good morning. Brenda Johnson, good morning to y'all.
Taking control of my life. I want to run the red lights. I've got to run this show. You always take me so high.
Craig and Lennon, good morning to you.
I love the way we vibe. You're like a centerfold. Ooh, that's sweet. You got what I need.
On and on it goes. Good morning.
All that good emotion. Just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat. Testify the motion. Loving is devotion. Ooh, that's sugar.
Shout out Roller Dragon, what's up? Tiger, what's going on? Tiger, brother Bryce, what's up?
All I want is satisfaction. Make a move, baby, you got nothing to lose.
Brother Lateef, good morning, brother.
Give me that good reaction. Gonna make it right, little like an offer I can't refuse. I'm on the road, it's my time. Taking control of my life. I want to run the red lights. I've got to run this show. You always take me so high.
William Moore, what's going on? Jack, Bluebird on my shoulder, good morning. Clayton, what's going on? Mara Cerise, good morning, Mara.
You got what I need. Sipping on the potion. All that good emotion. Just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat. Testify the
America. Good morning. Love you, mean it's true. Hope you have a great day.
You got what I need. Sipping on the motion. All that kind of motion.
All right, I think we are ready, y'all.
Keep it on repeat. Testify the motion. Loving this devotion.
All right, everybody, it's time for my sister from another Mr. Georgia Ford is on the clock. It's coming up next. Good morning, everybody.
Today, we continue jury deliberations in the case of the 3 officers who are charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights. Now, in this trial, we know that all 3 defendants took the stand in their own defense. But how exactly will this trial turn out? Will these 3 officers be held accountable for their role in George Floyd's death? I want you guys to take a listen to George Floyd's significant other, his girlfriend, who detailed why she feels like they should be charged and her emotional plea for the world to continue to pay attention in this pursuit for justice. Take a listen.
Hey, the federal case against Two-Town, J. Alexander King, and Thomas Lane has been sent away to the jury to deliberate whether or not they'll be found guilty of denying my love, George Floyd, his basic civil rights. My man laid on the ground with asphalt in his face and his lips, begging for help, groaning in pain, and eventually passing out from the lack of oxygen. Floyd laid still with no breath, no pulse for minutes, and the officers involved in this case did nothing to render any type of medical aid. They did not do what they were trained to do, which is lay him on his side in a recovery position. People on the street knew that Floyd needed help. Everyone who watched the video knew that Floyd needed help. And those officers, they knew that Floyd needed help too. But their excuse was that they were too cowardly to stand up to the officer in higher rank. In all my years in education, there would never be a time that I wouldn't stand up for a child, for someone who was in need, because I would be scared of the repercussions. That's not what we do as human beings. If you see someone that needs help, you help them. It is your duty when you are a public servant to help someone who needs aid. If you know CPR, if you know first aid, they tell you in those classes as a civilian, it is your duty then to render aid to someone.
You know, and as we hear her account there, the duties of a public servant, many believe that these officers will be found guilty. Ben, Brother Mac, Brother Rutherford, you know, on the other hand, there's a lot of people who are uncertain if we will see the same level of justice for the other 3 officers that we saw in the case with Derek Chauvin. Clearly, with Derek Chauvin, there was no denying his wrongdoing in the role of the murder of George Floyd, right? But with these other 3 officers, especially with 2 of them being newer to the force, there's been a lot of debate on whether or not they're going to be found guilty.
You know, Sister Ford, I'm going to say this. There are times when I think I can offer commentary, but listening to what that woman said about her man, I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm gonna say this to you now. You know, we may get into that white woman, black woman thing, white woman, black man thing. But when she said my man was laying on the concrete,
come on,
I was feeling some love right there. And at that point, I could hear her a lot clearer because I'm seeing there's just nothing I can add to what she said. I mean, if ever somebody should offer a closing argument, and if I was a juror and I'm listening to her lay it down the way she laid it down, I ain't got nothing to add to that.
You know, Brother Mac, I know y'all brought me on for the foreign policy side, but I just got a comment real quick that, you know, if somebody robs a bank and you out in the car or you there with them, they consider you an accessory. You part of the crime. So these 3 officers, they just as much a part of the crime as Derek Chauvin.
That's right.
You know, it's to me, it's a distinction without a difference. They ought to throw the book at them, and they should never see the light of day.
That's right. That's right.
Did you say it was a distinction without a difference?
Yes, sir.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, sir. There ain't nothing to you. You can't tell me that there is a sense of humanity in them that was present, and that's the same thing that Chauvin demonstrated, a lack of humanity. Because see, when you see wrong, you have to do something.
That's right.
It's not just, well, you know, I said roll over or whatever. Hey, man, if you see wrong, take charge of the situation and do something. That would have been a life-saving move, but they were complicit, and therefore they have to share in the crime and the consequences.
That's right. That's right. And just briefly to that point, Brother Rutherford, you know, it is incumbent upon people who I don't care about. Listen, authority has its place, but the challenging of authority has as much a place in humanity as authority itself. And if we are in a position ever where we see someone who is in need of help, we need to think about the person in need of help. And that's what that sister was talking about. And I call her a sister because she is a sister in this struggle. Yeah. There's some white women out here now who have had their black children killed. Yes. And they now share in that same narrative of pain. Yes. And they identify with it in a very visceral way. So I call her sister.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, when I look at this case, I feel like if these 3 officers are found guilty, you know, that should really change the culture of policing in this country in a very major way, because it says that not only do you have the duty to serve, but you have the duty to intervene. Yes. When your colleagues are doing something wrong, when you observe a misconduct, when you see that someone's using fatal force or excessive force, that is a colleague of yours, it's your duty to intervene. And, you know, it's that old saying, if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem.
That's right.
And so here in this instance, you know, the other thing that comes up for me, when you look at Tu Tao, who was, you know, the gatekeeper for Derek Chauvin, who was keeping all of the residents, the citizens, the children, the babies, keeping them at bay, preventing them from their duty to intervene, preventing them from acting on their own humanity when they saw George Floyd being murdered, right? Tu Tao stood there and he defended Derek Chauvin's actions. But when you think about him also,
I think we may have lost George
as a man
there.
of color, it brings. And how it with Tu Tao, I'm not sure if I'm back, but when you look at Tu Tao, who's also a man of color, it brings up again this idea of anti-Blackness.
Yeah.
The closer you are in the proximity to whiteness, right, the more susceptible you are to have ideologies of anti-Blackness. And you could see that embedded in his biases when he told people who were standing on the sidewalk, look, you guys, this is what happens when you use drugs. You know, he criminalized George Floyd. He dehumanized George Floyd. And I think, yes, absolutely. It's because George Floyd was Black, and Tu Tao has the superiority complex that most white folks have. And he
That's
also has, like, to me, he just expressed sentiments of anti-blackness in his responses to the people on the sidewalk. And in our community, as much as we're having conversations about allyship and solidarity, we also need to be mindful that just because you're a person of color doesn't mean that you can't hate us too.
And Georgia, I want us to remember, I wonder to any of you, does the name Carol Horn ring a bell?
Not immediately, no.
Carol Horn was a sister police officer, I believe, in Cleveland.
Yep.
And she was watching one of her fellow officers do something nefarious to a person, and she intervened to stop him. And there was no doubt that what that officer was doing was wrong. But
and she
Sister
ended up in
Horn,
trouble.
bringing her blackness, her consciousness into her profession to serve and protect, intervened. They fired her.
Yeah.
They fired her. And that sister has had to fight for over a decade. And I want to believe that it was on the heels of the death of George Floyd that the white superiority system in Cleveland came to some level of understanding that I think now that she may have just gotten her pension back, but I'm gonna have to look into her case a little bit further. But that sister has been fighting for decades for wrongful termination for trying to do the right thing.
Wow. Brother Rutherford.
Yeah. I do remember that story. Yeah.
This to me is soul crushing because we see it every day, and I'm just hurt that we are still having to fight this battle today. But we have to go back to America's original sin, and until America comes to grips with that, we're going to continue to have the issues that we have. We have to, there is a blue wall that we run into about truth and what's going on the streets. There is this protect them at all costs mentality, and we have to break through that, and we have to do that by hiring the right people, not just folks who want to carry a gun and badge and inflict, authority. And I use the word inflict authority as opposed to, using their authority judiciously.
That's right.
We have to be about bringing better people into policing, changing the way that policing is done, changing the training, and ultimately weeding out the white supremacists that are within law enforcement.
That's right.
But being in Georgia, and Al, let me ask Georgia specifically. I want to ask you because you've done so much reporting on this, and we keep talking about when is this going to end, Georgia? In light of everything that we're doing, and I think some of these things are moving us into the right direction. Body cams, the fact that we're seeing some of these folks held accountable. But Georgia, what do you think? How do you think the impact to this type of behavior would be if instead of the civil suits being paid from taxpaying dollars, the civil suits were coming out of police union pensions? Do you think that would help curtail any of this behavior?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think it would. I think it's been a conversation that people in community have been having here for quite some time, along with other conversations. I mean, last year when we had about a dozen community members who were advocating for policy change, they were pushing for no-knock warrants to be abolished across the state of Minnesota after observing what happened in Louisville to Breonna Taylor. But, that didn't happen. And so I think that we, in terms of our community, we have identified a number of reforms and policies and measures that could be put in place to really overhaul policing as we know it today and transform the system into something that may produce more equitable outcomes. But that is going to require the powers that be to listen, to make some compromises and to implement some of these measures that are being presented. One of the people who was leading on that was Jonathan McClellan, who has, really been one of the main community leaders at the forefront of this policy change. He spoke yesterday, too. I want you guys to take a listen at what he said outside of the federal courthouse during the first day of jury deliberations in this federal trial.
On the eclipse of a civil rights trial, one in which Derek Chauvin has already pled guilty, the others failed to accept their role in the murder of George Floyd. Derek Chauvin violated the public trust and showed a blatant disregard for human life. The results of his brutality and the complicity of his co-conspirators have caused immense damage to our community, primarily of color, and broken its most sacred capital, the public's trust. Further, this incident has sparked outrage around the world. The sentence of the court of 22 and a half years was a good start, but we feel it did not reach far enough. Derek should be serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. This trial is not about what the three officers did. It is about what they failed to do. This trial is about George Floyd's constitutional rights, due process, his inability to get medical attention, and the blatant disregard from these former officers to see the humanity in George Floyd. We know Derek Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd's neck, depriving him of life. Jay Alexander stood behind Derek Chauvin and failed to do anything, while Thomas Lane held down George Floyd's legs. Tu Tao claims he attempted to control the crowd on the street, but watched and did nothing to help keep George Floyd alive, despite his pleas. These three officers each had a role in what Derek Chauvin was doing as he knelt on George Floyd's neck. We call that aiding and abetting. They need to be held accountable for how they failed to behave as law enforcement as they stood by while George Floyd was deprived of his basic human rights. These officers could have saved George Floyd's life, which makes them guilty as Derek Chauvin. These officers failed in their most basic duty to protect and serve. Instead, they collectively committed murder. They should be found guilty, guilty, guilty as accessories to murder, period.
And so we know that right now the federal trial is happening, but in June, they are also going to be on trial on a state level on additional charges. So as the jury continues deliberating today, we'll find out whether or not they're guilty of violating George Floyd's civil rights if there's a verdict today. Hey, you guys, I am down here, downtown St. Paul, outside of the federal courthouse where the other three officers who were charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights in a federal case have all been found guilty. That verdict just came down. As you can see, I'm right here, right outside of the federal courthouse. I was on my way actually back to St. Paul from the live stream I was doing in Minneapolis when I received an email that they were going to be reading the verdict in 15 minutes. So I just came down here preparing to set up here for a press conference with the Attorney General, I believe, or a few other folks who worked on the case. We didn't anticipate that the verdict was going to come in today, and so it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But yes, all three officers have been found guilty on all charges. This is in the federal trial. The other three officers who are charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights. So I'm going to actually take this stream down, but I wanted to give you guys an update to let you know that the verdict came in. I got to watch the judge reading the verdict of the three officers, all found guilty. And we'll have another update here coming shortly, a press conference with one of the attorneys working on the case. Again, all three officers have been found guilty in the federal trial on all counts for violating George Floyd's civil rights.
I'm the acting United States Attorney for the District of Minnesota, and I'm joined today by the prosecution team. On behalf of the trial team, the United States Attorney's Office, and the Department of Justice, I want to thank the jury for their service over the past several weeks. May 25th, 2020 represents an inflection point in our community. On that day, a man tragically and senselessly lost his life at the hands of law enforcement. It was a scene that will forever be seared into our memories. George Floyd, handcuffed and pinned to the ground by 3 officers, while a 4th, Officer Chu Tao, stood nearby. Officers Lane and King were positioned on Mr. Floyd's back and legs, and Officer Derek Chauvin held his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck. He was held down for more than 9 minutes. Mr. Floyd called out more than 20 times that he couldn't breathe, repeatedly begging to be let up. Eventually, he stopped begging, pulse stopped, he lost consciousness, he became motionless. All the while, these officers to do nothing, to assist Mr. Floyd as he lay dying. And the world collectively witnessed this tragic and horrifying loss of life and humanity. Today, former officers Tao, King, and Lane stand convicted by a jury of their peers for willfully violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights, the same rights guaranteed to all of us by the United States Constitution. These officers had a moral responsibility, a legal obligation, and a duty to intervene. And by failing to do so, they committed a crime. This is a reminder that all sworn law enforcement officers, regardless of rank or seniority, individually and independently, have a duty to intervene and provide medical aid to those in their custody. And although today's verdict won't bring George Floyd back to his family or his friends, his community, and his loved ones, this outcome represents our collective affirmation to uphold George Floyd's civil rights, again, the same ones afforded to all of us under the Constitution. Members of George Floyd's family here who would like to say a few words, and I'll start by introducing Thelonious Floyd. Mr. Floyd.
How y'all doing? I'm Thelonious Floyd, brother of George Floyd. I have my nephew with me, Brandon Williams, who George raised like a son. Today is a good day for us. That this is the first time that I ever seen something like this did. 4 white officers were convicted of killing an African-American man. I know a lot of people have been texting me back and forth. I'm grateful for what all these attorneys did today. And, you know, they my friends, you know, because they did a hell of a job. And after just watching what happened to Kim Potter, I was like, I'm still going to believe and I have faith, because I just wanted some time to be served from somebody for what happened to my brother. This is just accountability. It can never be justice, because I can never get George back. I hope that Congress, the Senate, whichever, whoever it is, they're looking at what's going on, because if people are being transparent and they're also speaking out and the jury said guilty, 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 then up there in Congress, they ought to go ahead and say, let's pass this George Floyd Justice Policing Act to be able to help people of color be able to understand that they can move around and understand that they won't be murdered on sight. We need to end the qualified immunity. We need to end the no-knock warrants. We need to make sure there's no more chokeholds and make sure all these police officers have their gear on, dash gear, body gear, all of it. Also, we need to start a registry for these officers to make sure that they can't leave from Minneapolis to get to Wisconsin and get a job there after you do something bad. But I just need you all to tell Congress to please read this. Don't let this tragedy hit your front door before you make a decision. Pass the law. Pass the George Floyd Policing Act.
I'm Brandon Williams, the nephew of George Floyd. And I'd like to start by saying God is good. And I want to send a huge thank you to everybody that's standing back here. You know, throughout the trial, they constantly checked on us and made sure that we were okay. This day is historic because just not too long ago, the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, were sentenced, found guilty in federal hate crimes as well. That's like 2 in the same week or maybe the same month. I don't know the exact day. And, that's historic for this country because oftentimes, officers kill black and brown men and women, and we get little to no consequences. A lot of times we don't even get charges, let alone a conviction. And smile about it and be happy, but deep down we're still hurting. We want this to stop. This means so much to us because we've connected with so many families, that's in similar situations and receive no justice. And, I'm shaking because my first trip here, the first press conference I did, I said that we're only coming here to get some justice and accountability. And today was another step towards that. And it feels good. We were very optimistic today, and when they said that the verdict, that the jury were deliberating, because we saw what happened in the Kim Powder sentencing. There's no way that an unarmed black man supposedly accidentally killed, and the cop is only sentenced to 18 months. I found that very disrespectful and hurtful because, I've connected with Daunte Wright's family, and I just felt for him so bad because I know what Daunte meant to Miss Katie and Mr. Arbery. So we were very optimistic and nervous pending the outcome of this verdict. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction for people that's in power to do the right thing, to change laws and policies, that's going to protect people from these situations. And more than anything, that's going to hold them accountable and sends a message that says if you murder or use excessive or deadly force, it's consequences that follow. Yes. I think when you make a statement by convicting these officers, they start to feel like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do it. I can't get away with it. Because in the past, they've gotten away with it so much. So all in all,
if they can make federal laws to protect the bird, then they can make federal laws to protect people of color. Thank you.
As the owner and president of Hope and Healing Counseling Services, I am a mental health practitioner. And I want to talk just briefly about the mental health impact that these snuff films have on black men, our children, and our women. It is literally psychological warfare. The messaging that is sent that when an officer shoots a man and kills him and nothing is done, that our lives don't matter. Minnesota, the city of Minneapolis, the message that you are sending us is that our lives do not matter to you. We need you to understand very deeply and strongly the impact mentally that these incidents have on our community. It creates another trauma on top of several other traumas. And we are struggling every single day to get up, to stand up, to go and face this country and do what we have to do to take care of our families, to feed our families, to look out for our community. And we need this all to end. We need you to acknowledge it, we need you to recognize it, and we need to see policy changes that will impact us positively versus negatively. The next speaker that we will have is Dr. Williams of the Racial Justice Initiative. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Marquise. A couple of people have mentioned Nikema Levy-Armstrong today. And I realize in this moment that many people are concerned about and thinking about what's happening in Ukraine and celebrating the fact that you have anti-war protesters who gathered today under threat of death to challenge the naked aggression of Vladimir Putin with regard to the Ukrainian people. What's disappointing to me is that people did not recognize the tremendous strength and courage it took for Nikema Levy-Armstrong in that moment to speak truth to power in our community to affirm the dignity of black life. The reason this is unacceptable is because on the eve of the Chauvin trial, they asked Pastor Herron at Zion Baptist Church what he thought the outcome would be. And he said, I don't know. But the challenge in our community is we've seen this movie before. So many times before we can recite the lines. And the reason that was so powerful when Pastor Herron said that is because if you go back to 1989, it was his father, Curtis Herron, who was challenging the Minneapolis police who entered the apartment of an elderly black couple on a no-knock warrant, used a flash grenade, and killed both of them. And in that moment, they asked the Chief John Locks, are you going to get rid of the no-knocks? They didn't even charge the officers. And the reality is, we look at the history of this, we can go to 2010 and talk about Rakia, who was in South Minneapolis, no-knock warrant. Police come in, use a flash grenade, and burn her leg to the bone. No charges on the officers. No knock. And they asked the police in that moment, you're going to get rid of those no-knock warrants? See, we talk about epigenetic harm in our community, unfortunately, because the reason we talk about being able to recite the lines is we can go back to 1975, when a 13-year-old boy is shot in the back by the Minneapolis police, when Willie Mae Demings testifies before the Minnesota Human Rights Commission and talks about the officer that put the knee on her neck and put her in the hospital for 8 days. And then she's charged the following year for assault on a police officer. We could talk about Plymouth Avenue, gentlemen. We could talk about all the great black men and black women who have challenged inequality in our community. People like Gleason Glover, people like Spike Moss. Many would argue now their names are not familiar to us. Martin Luther King would say it this way, they've been lost in a thick fog of oblivion. But in talking about Rosa Parks, he mentioned on that day in Montgomery that one case stands before us now with glaring importance, and that is the case of Amir Locke. We wanted justice for Jamar Clark. We wanted justice for Philando Castile. We wanted justice for George Floyd. But we want more than justice for Amir Locke. What we want is genuine change in this community. What we want is a recognition of our human dignity. What we want is for people to recognize that if we are to be one Minnesota, it can't just be just you. It has to be just us, all of us. And so in this temple of bronze and marble, where we celebrate supposedly the strength and power of the great state of Minnesota, recognize what Arthur Cunningham said in 1975 when he made national news in the same way that our sister Nakima Levy Armstrong made national news when he said, the Minneapolis police have declared war on blacks and Indians. I shouldn't be able to make all these connections with you across time if they weren't sending one glaring message to all of us in this moment. It is time for change to come to the city of Minneapolis, to the city of St. Paul, to the city of Bloomington, to the state of Minnesota. We will not be silenced.
Representative John Thompson.
Think about what Marquise was talking about in 2016 when Philando was murdered. I just spoke to him the day before he was murdered. And we had just talked about Alton Sterling. Alton Sterling was murdered the day before Philando was murdered. And so when I was crying to somebody who I work with, I watched Serve Kids. But post Philando Castile, the buzzword here in this state was that our officers need better training. They need better training in implicit bias and de-escalation training. And we bought it. We bought it. We paid $9 million for de-escalation training and implicit bias training, 2016, right? Here we are watching the training sergeant with his damn knee on George Floyd's neck. After we spend $9 million on a training facility, we think that we got de-escalation, implicit bias. We think that we've gotten that down packed. But then we watch the training sergeant taser, 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 and shoot somebody with her gun. Training officer that we spend $9 million on. Right? That was just the sprinkle of equity that they gave us. Shut up, black people, shut up. We'll give you de-escalation training. Stop talking about our police here in this state. We bought it. Post George Floyd. Oh, we'll stop kneeing people now. We're going to take our knees and we're not going to use that tactic anymore. Post George Floyd. Here's another sprinkle. We'll give y'all. Please stop protesting. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. We're not going to bring Negroes here again in this state. Post George Floyd, Dante Wright. I thought we had the body camera stuff all situated. But then I see a young man in Uptown murdered as he was taking his girlfriend out to eat at Stella's. And ironically, there's no body camera video after we fought in bulk that we're going to get body cameras. Right? Here we are with Dante Wright. There's a reason this woman smiled as she was being booked. Because she knows she coming home to that para. She's coming home to a picture. She ain't got to worry about nothing a day in her life. And we're paying for it. Taxpayers. Yes, sir. See, I've been here for a while, so when Minnesota show you who they are, please y'all believe them. Believe them. Black men are not innocent until proven guilty here. We're guilty. Guilty. And we don't have to prove you're innocent. We'll kill you on the spot if you don't do what we say do. Turn over, get on your knees, lay on your back, bark like a dog, meow like a cat. I don't know what you want me to do, but I just want you to take me to jail if I'm going to jail, but don't kill me. Now here we are. Dante Wright, George Floyd, Philando Castile, Cordell Handy, Hardell Sherrill, and the list just goes on and on and on with names of black men who've been taken from us by the people who're supposed to serve and protect us. And we ask for reform. But keep in mind, Martin Luther King and Betty Shabazz husband asked for police reform in '65. And here we are in 2022 asking for the same thing. I don't think that they understand. We may need to change what reform means. Because reform don't mean give us sprinkles and sprinkles and sprinkles. Reform means give us a full reform or blow the system up. I never stood before this microphone and said defund the police, and nor have they been defunded. They haven't been defunded. But since we're marching and protesting here, we're not going to police y'all area in Minneapolis. We're going to let them run wild in Minneapolis. I'm watching what y'all doing here. Don't be mad at my brass delivery. Be mad at what they're doing to black men in this state. Because if you were investing in education, we have some of the worst education disparities in this state. If you were investing in culturally intelligent mental health providers in this state, if you were investing in jobs and economic development, and not putting our money in the BIPOC pot, by the way, for African Americans here in this state, not the BIPOC pot, not the posse pot. I don't even know what BIPOC is. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, BIPOC wasn't even a word. It wasn't even an acronym. They were calling us niggas. African American, colored, black. Now all of a sudden we BIPOC. These systems have never changed. These tactics have never changed. Only the faces. They call us Antifa for standing right here, asking for what we are due. You see, this place has no problem taking their hand and sticking it in our pocket and taking our tax dollars. I think we do have a say as to how our tax dollars are spent here in this state. You see, I watched my colleagues have a press conference just the other day announcing that they're asking for $30 million in our education budget to give police scholarships. While our governor asked for $300 million for police. Why they can't dip into the $300 million pot? They got to dip into the education pot. They got to dip into the higher ed pot. They got to dip into the behavioral health and human service pot. They got to dip into every pot in this doggone state. And that takes money out of my community. And then they stand in front of this podium and say, we're going to do something about the crime in Minneapolis. They politicize our pain. Our blood is being politicized, not only in this state, but all across the United States. People are talking about the uptick in gun violence, but what they're not telling you is they only gave the people $1,300 in a stimulus package. Who wouldn't rob somebody? They shut the whole damn state down and give you a couple of $1,000s and say, get it, make it on your own. Well, we've been used to pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, but what we will not tolerate is you watching our kids die on our watch and then complaining like you're going to do something about it to win political seats here in this doggone place. No, you need to do something about it. Not only with the police. Are we going to get more judges? We're going to get more prosecutors? We're going to get more officers? When are you going to get more resources to the teachers who happen to be going on strike in a couple of weeks? When are we going to do that? Because we could have took that same $30 million and gave it to the teachers. Or who want to educate?
You used to beat us for learning. Now we call it an achievement gap. Who want to educate what I can make money off of? Our young brothers are being sized up for jumpsuits in 6th grade right now. Right now. Who's putting these guns on the streets? I promised my mother passed away in 2016. I promised I would never stand in front of this microphone and not say something that was relevant for the people. The people are sick of bullshit. We not anti-nothing. We anti-bullshit. We're not getting our fair share of nothing here in this state. I tell you this because I know it. Ask around and find out how many black farmers are here in the state of Minnesota. I'll tell you, it's 3 black farmers in the entire state. We used to sing, Old MacDonald have a farm. Yeah, that black man don't even own a farm in this state no more. These are career pathways that have been ripped away from our communities on purpose so you can call us criminals. But today, I don't have criminals behind me. I have executive directors behind me. I have politicians behind me. I have business owners behind me. I have motivators behind me. I have Grammy Award-winning artists behind me, black men. Because if you didn't know, Amir Locke was a black man. Philando Castile was a black man. Cordell Handy was a black man. Jamal Clark, black man. Y'all not gonna keep stealing our future and telling us that we're causing our own pain here in this state. Y'all either cut us in or cut it out. And I'll end by saying this, because I said it in 2016. I said it in 2016. You don't have to worry about me. There's plenty of John Thompsons doing push-ups for the next election cycle. There's plenty of John Thompsons. You don't have to worry about me. But what you do have to worry about is people who are just like me, that are sick and tired of watching you politicize our pain and act like we like it, because they're coming for your seats too. I love y'all, man. Thank you so much for having me. Say his name! Say his name! Say his name! Thank you.
The next individuals who I am calling are Felonious Floyd, George's uncle, brother, and Brandon Williams, his nephew. Let's give him a round of applause.
Say his name! Say his name! Say his name! Say his name!
As y'all know, I'm George Floyd's brother, Felonious Floyd. I'm here with my nephew, Brandon Williams, who George raised like a son. And I'm here with my best friend.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's a hero. Him, Darnella Fraser, all. So I said that to say this. Every time I come to Minnesota, it's always a problem. We came down here for George, but instead, Dante Wright was murdered. We spoke up for him. Then we come down here for this federal case, and you look up, you see another child being murdered. Amir Locke, he was 22 years young. He's a young man. Sometimes I think about the wrong places lead you to the right places. I just want to know this. How can people be more upset with a cop being fired than a black person being murdered? This is why I'm seeking justice for 2 justice systems, one for black America and one for white America. This is terrible. Y'all think this is the criminal justice system for a reason? Nope. This is the criminal legal system, and justice has nothing to do with it. For the past year, we've been through a lot. And here we are, we all are still standing. In the end, it comes down to how much of your humanity, your soul, anything that you can light that flame inside of you to get involved and sacrifice for the greater good. What happened to Amir Locke was a tragedy, and my heart goes out to them every day. I'm seeking accountability for them. I pray for them every day. But I need Congress to understand this. I'm talking to the Senate. Y'all need to pull these cameras a little bit closer if y'all have to. Y'all need to pass the George Floyd Policing Act. Too many bodies. Just in Minnesota. We're not talking about everywhere around the world. Amir Locke was killed in his sleep. He don't know where he's at. Breonna Taylor was killed in her sleep. She don't know where she's at. Amir Locke had bullet holes in him the size of a Gatorade top. I can tell you this. Don't let this tragedy hit your front door before you're ready to make a decision. Bottom line, y'all got to make better laws to serve and protect. No, I mean there has to be a better system that allows us to make mistakes and we still get to live. I'm not asking you to abolish the system. I'm asking you to change the system. And I want everybody to understand this. If y'all can make federal laws to protect the bird, which is the bald eagle, then you can make federal laws to protect people of color.
Elijah Darris, Executive Director of the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
I'm going to be very brief because right now I'm really allowing myself to be engrossed inside of the power that stands behind me right now. We are black men. We are black men. What are we? 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 Black men. And we love our community. We love the women in our community, the children in our community. We protect and defend and stand and rock for our community. And it's why we're out here today. It's no prototypical brother that you see behind me today. We are all out here. And we're all speaking in the same voice. We're speaking in unison in terms of what we want. We're here to stand tall and stand strong and say we will protect our community. That's why we're here. What are we? Black men. What are we? Black men. What are we? Black men. What do we do? Protect. 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 And that's why we're here. We're sending a strong clarion call, not just in Minneapolis, not just in St. Paul, not just in the Twin Cities, not just in Minnesota, not just in the Midwest, not just in America. We're sending a strong and clarion call across the world. We've had enough. You see a strong collection of brothers behind me. And we are here. We've been standing here for over an hour. Lockstep for over an hour. Speaking power and truth over this podium. Making sure that our voices are heard. Letting it be known. What are we? Black men. What are we? Black men. We protect and defend our community. Expect that. Expect us. This is only the beginning of what is going to be the ending. We've had enough. What do we do? Protect. What do we do? Protect. What do we do? Protect. I don't care if we're in Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's why we're here. Amir Locke. Say his name. Amir Locke. Breonna Taylor. Say her name. Breonna Taylor. George Floyd. Say his name. George Floyd. We've had enough. This is the beginning of what is going to be the ending. Expect us. I'm done.
Toussaint Morrison.
Today is Thursday, February 24th, 2022. 22 days ago, Amir Locke, a 22-year-old black man, was shot and murdered by Minneapolis police officer Mark Hanneman. It has been 22 days since he was murdered. Mark Hanneman still has a job. Mayor Frey has not apologized. Mayor Frey did not attend the funeral. Interim Police Chief Amelia Huffman still has a job. And Amir's name was lied upon repeatedly, day after day. And this is not in a vacuum. A few years ago, Minnesota was rated as one of the most unwelcoming states in the country. The top two demographics that would leave are people that look like the brothers right behind me and people that would come in from out of town wondering what the hell is going on. The disparity here is rock bottom in education, law enforcement, employment, and look no further than the brothers right behind me to tell you about it. Somewhere there is a black boy on the other side of a door in the principal's office wondering why. Somewhere there is a black man on the other side of the bars in Stillwater wondering why. And Minnesota gives no answers. You can give an objective answer, you can give a subjective answer, but what Minnesota does is it dismisses it. Race what? Racial disparity who? George who? You turn up for an international movement and then you shut down because it's winter and a young black man was shot in an apartment who was not a suspect. Again, Hanneman still has his job. The mayor has not apologized. Amelia Huffman still has her job. This is an abject failure from top to bottom. And the Minneapolis City Council before May 25th, 2020 would have thought that BLM stood for Bike Lanes Matter until afterwards. And the new City Council has an opportunity to do better. The mayor had many opportunities to do better. And he has absolutely failed on all of them. Late 2020, he told us that no-knock warrants, he was doing the work. And he was banning them. And then what happens? Somebody gets killed in a no-knock warrant. And then what does he say? He holds a secret press conference upstairs, lies, is approached by a powerful black woman named Nakima Levy-Armstrong, and can't even come to words. Can't say anything. The police chief goes beet red because they've run out of lies, they've run out of stories, they've run out of stories to sell you. What happens next? I would ask one of these gentlemen back here what happens next. Ask them. Ask us. Because the suspension rates for young black men and indigenous men are through the roof. They are preposterous compared to our white community members. South of 38th Street, there is no police precinct. There are middle schools that are the sizes of community colleges. You want to put police precincts on the north side, under-resource it, underfund it, neglect it, and then the mayor only shows up when there's community violence. How convenient. I know a black man, and I know he'll watch this. He's a mentor of mine, he's 50-some years old, and he was in Oakland. And when he grew up in Oakland, grew up in poverty, and it was an idea of his to rob a bank one day because he thought that's how he was going to get by. Now you pull a white kid out of Kenwood and take 10 of them and ask any of them, have you ever thought of robbing a bank? Have you ever thought of getting a gun? Have you ever thought of stealing to get a meal the next day? What do you think the answer is going to be? This state is so backwards, it is selling you BS and hoping that you'll feed off on it. They're hoping that the winter is going to continue and be long, so nobody's going to go out into the streets and hurt any of the precious property, because it's been property over people since the beginning, since the colonization of this damn country. Let's just be realistic. And white Minnesota has no more fragility to operate in. And I'll end on this. When we pulled up to Amelia Huffman's house and we stood there and we protested and we spoke our truths, a white woman came out of nowhere. She did the same thing that many of the news outlets did here. Star Tribune, their headline was "Man Shot, Killed by Minneapolis Police During Search and Armed." Picture of the gun they showed. WCCO, their headline refers to Amir as "Man Holding a Handgun." Gave out the same lie, said that he was pointing it at police. Pioneer Press, first line of the article states that Amir had his gun pointed at officers. No, he didn't. KSTP, pictures of the gun, repeats lie that Amir was pointing a gun at police. And they hope that people eat this up. And this white woman approached us standing outside of Amelia Huffman's house, and she said, "What kind of gun did he have?" That was her only question. That was the only thing going through her mind. And as people approached her and said, "What does it matter?" she then shouts, "I feel uncomfortable now." I feel uncomfortable. And my answer to that is, if you feel a little bit of discomfort, what a fortune that must be. In light of black men losing their lives, being lied upon, having their character attacked, the standard to become a police officer in this state requires less time than it is to become a hairstylist in this state. And that's no dig at hairstylists. That's just saying that police hold the lives of community members in their hands. The standard should be higher, because the standard to be a black man, ask anybody behind me, it is far higher than it is to be a police officer, let alone the mayor of this damn city.
Sister Ford, thank you as always for everything that you're doing and the coverage and the attention that you're bringing to this. We have, and it's unfortunate. There are just so many more stories that we haven't had the time to cover this morning. But I just want to appreciate you for keeping us on the clock.
Always.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Brother John Nichols of The Nation, and we're going to keep the conversation going on about Russia. We'll be back with more of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show right after this.
All right, y'all. Make sure that you stay tuned. We got more coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Like it or not, we'll be starting momentarily, y'all. Good morning, everybody.
Little baddie, cashing big checks. I bought the whole block out. Now that's a big flex. Peeping out my Uber window, like what's next? Got new levels and new devils out the wazoo. Ain't no worries, life gets better when you find you. And if you mind you, peace will abide and hide you until it's time to start anew. So live it up, we grown, ain't got no curfew. Who brought the bad vibes? Tell that bitch move. Walking all in my inner.
Laura Estrada, good morning.
Mad that I survived. All your Saturday.
Good morning, Brenda.
But I've been in the wind, been had wings. I was always this fly. Oh yes, and that's probably why you're mad. Don't let Evie turn you into a trash bag. So get glad, find out why you sad.
All right, y'all, and don't remember tomorrow. It Hustle. Good morning, Juanita. Good morning. 1ATL Country Boy. Good morning to you, Boss Banana. Good morning. Don't y'all forget tomorrow. It is going down. Patron party. Make sure that you have your face in the place, man. Last patron party is Black History Month, and we celebrate our blackness every patron party, so regardless. But tomorrow it's going to be extra crispy, black and brown, the blackest burgers that you ever seen, kind of black. That's what I'm talking about. And we're going to take y'all everywhere, man. We're going to take y'all from the 80s to the 90s to the day. It is going to be a party that you do not want to miss. 9 p.m. tomorrow, 8:30 if I'm not mistaken. We're doing some Q&A beforehand. So y'all make sure y'all have your face in the place, man. Patron party tomorrow, all black edition again. Y'all come ready. Extra crispy black.
I'll slip through your fingers like a real fly kite. Why you want to
his gums? I ain't fooling with y'all today, okay?
And go and get your mind right. Say a prayer tonight to keep it so tight. You in the big world of danger, cause you dwell in that drama. I put the work in, now I got them big bags that you call Birkins. My world has come together, and maybe I just wanna let it shine. There is no good or better. I think tonight I'm gonna make it mine.
Snack Panther, go away. My dog Snack Panther said the bottom of Suda's people keep black. Hey, that's black.
I think tonight.
Ooh, I want to blow my nose so bad right now. It is annoying me.
Let's bake ourselves a treat. What you've been mixing, serve it up the way you please. I love the way you shake, you stir, you hear, you squeeze. So thick. Push up and butter me.
Push that, shake that, smack that, mix that, help that, marinate that. We don't need a recipe.
Whip that cream, baby. Pour that sweet on me, baby. Shade up. We can cook up, we can syrup when we hook up, just you and me. Whip that cream, whip that cream. serving up like 5,000 degrees.
Roller Dragon, did I speak to you this morning? Good morning, Roller Dragon. I can't remember. Latino, good morning.
I got it. I'm a
Promises manifested. Good morning to you.
be honest, you're on it, and this ain't no time to
Juanito, whippa.
We don't need a recipe.
Whip that cream, baby. Pour that sweet on me, baby. Shade it. We can cook up, we can syrup when we hook up, just you and me.
Latino, you as well. Hollywood, good morning.
With that
Oh, I can't type this morning.
that cream, and that sweet on me.
All right, y'all, without any further ado, welcome back to the screen. My brother from another mother, Benjamin Dixon. Good morning, Brother Ben.
And DJ Exclusive, as always, thank you for doing what you do, keeping us nice and balanced with the music. I want to bring in friend of the show. He is John Nichols, National Affairs Correspondent to The Nation. And he is, Brother Nichols, I kind of just want to jump right into it for the sake of time. We wanted to begin our conversation, honestly, about your book, because I have been following your work for some time. And you're keeping track of how people are profiting off of the pain of the pandemic. In the backdrop of that, I still have Dr. Mack with me and Brother Carl Rutherford because of everything that has happened overnight in Russia. If you would just take a second and tell us, I do want to ask you about your book, because to me, it is the profiteering and the oligarchs who are behind a lot of the pain that we're seeing across the globe. First and foremost, good morning to you, and thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be with you, my friend. And trust me, I have no qualms about or no discomfort talking about Russia today and talking about the book some other time.
Absolutely.
I'm with you.
I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and bring Dr. Mack and Brother Rutherford back into Al Rutherford back into the conversation, and then come to you first, Brother Nichols. Talk to us about the underlying issue here. I am at a loss because at the end of the day, they are still oligarchs. They are still wealthy people who make their money in similar ways as many American oligarchs. Why is it that we still are on the precipice of a feigned Cold War when they all have capitalism in common?
Well, this is the thing that you ought to really keep in mind. You're exactly right to be worried about the things you're worried about. The fact of the matter is we are on the precipice of a new Cold War. And that's a terrible place to be if we want to address economic and social and racial injustice, imperialism, colonialism, and all the other challenges in the world. And so our primary role here has to be to try and figure out how to get back from that precipice, to get out of that situation. Because if that's where we're at, I can tell you, my friend, we will see massive spikes in defense spending. The military industrial complex will get bigger. The defense corporations will make more money. And there will be, you know exactly what will happen. There, in very short order, we will be told there isn't any money for the mom who needs, a little help to feed her kids. There isn't any money to deal with all the other challenges. And so this is a point where we can be very sympathetic with people in Ukraine, right? We must be. I mean, these are folks who are suddenly finding themselves in the center of all this geopolitical battle, and that sympathy should be real. And there are ways to support. Congresswoman Barbara Lee very wisely said, "Look, we should be in the forefront right now of getting ahead of refugee crises that are likely to develop, etc."
That's right.
But when we have our broader picture, right, when we look at this whole circumstance, what we do need to understand is that, as 43 members of Congress said just 2 days ago in a letter to President Biden, any effort to escalate U.S. involvement in this needs to go to Congress. There needs to be an honest debate about how we want to do this, and Congress needs to be brought into this. At the same time, we really need to prioritize everything we can do with diplomacy everything we can do with care for refugees, everything we can do with humanitarian aid. I would counsel against any major increase in military involvement, because at the end of the day, we know how that ends. And so,
yeah,
a few things to put on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to yield the floor to Al Rutherford. I know your time is limited, but I want you to get in here.
No problem. I appreciate that, and I think to Brother Nichols' point, it's very sound and very salient. What we've missed the opportunity to deter Vladimir Putin from this incursion or invasion. So now it's necessary that we provide the support and assistance for this looming refugee crisis. Now, I did go back and look because I wanted to see what the specifics of the Budapest Memorandum included when we talked about security assurances. And short of a nuclear exchange, because the wording was to seek immediate Security Council action to provide assistance to Belarus should they become a victim of an act of aggression or an object of or threat of aggression in which nuclear weapons are used. So now that Putin has rolled in, short of using nuclear weapons, there is no, I got your back. And so we will not, and I also agree that if you were to put troops on the ground from the U.S., and I don't anticipate that, Biden has been pretty clear on that, but yes, you should have some type of congressional authorization and oversight. Because, see, when we got into Vietnam around this so-called, and I question, I'm not 100% sure that there was an incident in the Gulf of Tonkin. Now, there was a Gulf of Tonkin resolution, and we avoided the War Powers Act. We cannot go down that road again. So yes, you would have to have some type of congressional oversight. But I believe that time has passed. We now must prepare for this refugee crisis. Most likely, they will be coming into Poland and supporting that effort. That's where we are now. We missed deterrence, and we have pretty much failed on defense. We're not going to get there and push him back. I think you got to figure that Ukraine is going to fall, and now what is going to be the NATO posture around the remaining countries that surround Russia? That's the question now. Not putting boots on the ground. That ain't gonna happen.
And certainly that was my question. And so I want to ask it very plainly to both you, Brother Rutherford, and you, Brother Nichols. Are we at a stage that it is just a matter of time, but inevitably Russia is going to annex Ukraine and nothing is going to be done about it? We could talk about it. There'll be sanctions. That'll be all that. But in the end, there's not going to be any boots on the ground from NATO. And Ukraine is going to go the way of Crimea with Russia. Brother Nichols, Brother Rutherford.
Sure. Well, let me go first, and then I'll defer to the wisdom of others. The best answer to that is we don't know. We don't know how far this will go. What we do know is that the Russian invasion has been far more extensive than just a narrow land grab along the border. This is gone far deeper. Where that ends up is still somewhat of an open question. If the Russians are seeking to destabilize so that they then can make a smaller land grab and then might yet go into negotiations, we'll see. Obviously, there are going to be urgent efforts to do that. If it is a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, I think there's the reality that the Russians have the capacity to probably claim this territory, and that NATO is unlikely. It just isn't going to enter in. Remember, Ukraine is not a NATO country.
That's right.
And so we end up in a situation where the question you ask, which is a critical question, leads to at least the possibility of what you suggest there, that possibility that you anticipate. If that is the case, then we are clearly in a new world order, to quote a former President Bush. Exactly. And where that becomes very difficult, and I won't go into immense detail here because other wise voices will add to this. But where that becomes especially difficult is that in anticipation of this moment, Vladimir Putin got his ducks in a row, so to speak. He wasn't in China to watch the Olympics. He was in China to solidify that relationship.
That's right.
The China-Russia relationship allows Russia to withstand a lot of sanctions, potentially, and begins to create a new arrangement globally. For the United States, that becomes incredibly challenging. For Europe, it becomes incredibly challenging.
Yes.
And I'll be very blunt. I agree with everyone here that I think President Biden has actually been quite clear that he doesn't want boots on the ground. But there's two concerns I have. Number one, how situations like this begin to expand and turn into something much more than expected. We had a reference a moment ago to Vietnam. Remember how Vietnam led into Cambodia, into Laos, into other areas. As refugees go into Poland, if that is the case, then you have suddenly you're in NATO territory. And so this is a very delicate place to be. What I would highly recommend, what I think is incredibly vital at this point, is that the United States step up as a real leader as regards support for diplomacy and support for refugee services, for having to solidify these situations. Let the United States be as noble as it possibly can be. Be incredibly careful about getting into this new Cold War stance. Because if we get there, and if it's Russia and China versus the U.S. and Europe, boy, we're gonna have a very hard time finding a penny to pay for healthcare at home and things like that, because our budgets are going to be for defense are going to be going through the roof.
Brother Rutherford.
Well, to John's point, the Vietnam War killed the Great Society.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It took it right out. But I'm going to be very succinct here and very direct. Vladimir Putin has Ukraine. It's not. Is he going to get it? No, he's in. He has made a full-on attack.
That's right.
And I believe he is using a decapitation strategy. In other words, he is going to surround Kiev. He is going to take over and install a puppet government there, similar to what he has in Belarus. Plain and simple. He's gone in. He's got it. Now it's just a matter of time before he gets the government there that he wants. We have to hope that this does not spread beyond Ukraine, because that has some very dire consequences to it, on top of what has already been done by when I was a kid. We used to call it ganking. He has ganked Ukraine. Now the question is he done for the moment? And that we'll have to wait and see. I'm particularly curious, Brother Mac, on how you think the markets are going to react to this situation today, tomorrow, because it looks to me like there's a lot of dollars being lost in the pre-market. Do you concur? Do you see something different there?
Without question, yes. As Putin's aggression has intensified beyond what Wall Street tried to price into it. The market shuddered real hard yesterday. I want to say it dropped 350, 360 points. Last night, when the invasion started, that is now doubled. The market is down, 700 points. And so we're going to see, a lot more of that, because I don't think the market priced that in. So, but John, I got to tell you, the book that you have written, and when you're talking about this new world order, that is where I'd really love to spend a whole lot of time talking about, and I just want to turn it back over to you, because again, when you talk about this new world order, you are absolutely right. And Al, you and I spoke about this. We knew that Putin, first of all, folks who didn't think Putin was going into Ukraine, I don't understand how you didn't see that. You don't move that many troops, that much infrastructure. And then, big homie, if I'm not mistaken, you talked about blood supplies that he moved there.
Yes,
blood
hospitals
supplies.
and blood supplies.
Right.
They have a
not
shelf
like
life.
Ain't got
right.
they got a certain shelf life. But we knew, back to your point, John, he didn't go to the Olympics to see the Olympics. He went there to shore up his relationship with Xi. And Xi said to him, listen, I understand what you want to do, but don't rain on my party right now. Let's get this party known as the Winter Olympics out of the way. And when that's done, you do what you need to do. And yes, we'll be there with you. So John, I wish you would just go into this new world order thing of what you think is going to take place, because you're correct. One of the things that kept Russia at bay was that we were more friendly with China than Russia was. But now that's gone by the wayside. And so I turn it over to you, John, because I know you got some insight that I really want to hear.
Well, your insight is just as valuable or more than mine. But I'll throw a few thoughts here. Look, what we witnessed over the last couple months was the equivalent of when if the four of us decided that we want to get our mind off all this and we're going to go see a vampire movie, right? And we're like, oh, it's got all these nice people in Edwardian clothes running around, doing all these, going to parties and stuff like that. But we know something's going to happen, right? We know that the vampire is going to show up at a certain point. Well, and we know we're going to get scared. That's why we went to the movie. Well, we've watched for a couple months now, right? As everything followed exact pattern. This is not an unpredictable thing. There isn't a surprise here, but we're still going to get scared, right? And the moment has come. And so now we are at the point where any logical calculus would have seen where things are headed.
That's right.
But it's happened, and we're a little bit shocked, right? That's the bottom line. And so what we ought to do now is sort of grow up, kind of leave the movie theater, right? Come into the real world and start believing what we know is happening and is going to happen. Right. This is very hard to do, because you're exactly right. The markets didn't even anticipate this fully. They had built in a little bit of preparation for this. They didn't see it going this far.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so when you know this about capitalism. Capitalism hires the smartest people in the world to tell them what's going to happen so that they can get ahead of things. That's the simplest calculus ever. Mm-hmm. So you know that if they're surprised, right, this is gone to a new point. What we as people think about policy, as we think about how we deal with the world, is we've got to now rethink as well and kind of begin to calculate out where this thing goes. Here's what I will tell you. There is a new world order that is developing here. And whether you like it or not, there's a reality to it. Putin spent not just a day. He didn't fly in and do a quick summit. He wasn't like Blinken jetting around Europe. He spent quite a bit of time in China. And you notice that he fell asleep at the Olympics, right? So I just put that into your calculus. He's sleeping at the event. It's the big high profile event. What's he doing when he's awake? Right? He's meeting with people. He's talking to people. He's putting things into place. And so I think that Russia-China relationship right now is more well developed than I think a lot of people may anticipate.
I agree.
Absolutely.
John,
Absolutely.
I've got a quick question, if we could. I'm interested in your thoughts on how this affects China, Taiwan, as she is looking at what is going on in Ukraine. What does this foretell for Taiwan?
Brother John, if you could, in about 60 seconds.
It's really fast. Look, you answered your question is Hong Kong, right? 20-some years ago, we thought Hong Kong, we've got this, it's going to be somehow different. It's going to be easier. Well, no, what's happening in Hong Kong gives you a very good example of the fact that China does want territory. It wants the territories it thinks belong to China. And so I don't think that China will move quickly on Taiwan. I think the Chinese are very calculating, very thoughtful in how they approach things. But I do think that risk is there. And I think it becomes greater now, right? Because of what has occurred here. And so, again, the quickest, and just to pull the circle tight here, what is going to happen is we've got to now look at the world in a much more thoughtful way. I think the United States has to try and rebuild relations with China I don't think we
That's
want
right.
to be at odds with China. I think we've got to try and figure out how to solidify Europe. We've got to go into this with an eye toward this new stage and how to be a part of it in a smart, responsible way. And I'll just throw one last thing here on the table, and that is climate. The fact of the matter is the planet is at stake. And if we've got everybody fighting with each other on old school wars, the battle to save the planet is going to become an awful lot more difficult. So there's so much on the table we have to deal with.
John Nichols, the name of the book is Coronavirus, Criminals, and Pandemic Profiteers. Thank you so much for joining us. And Brother Al Rutherford, this is our first time, but it will not be our last time. Thank you so much, man,
Ben,
for joining
before
us.
you go, John, please, both you and Al, John, I really want to get inside your book and hear about it. Very fascinated. And Big Homie, thank you so much. So, man, we look forward to having both of you back.
Super honored.
Hey, thank you all very much. Great to be here with you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with Like It or Not after this break.
You can't break my focus. All I got right now is attention. Give me the divine intervention. Hey, you done got me.
All right, y'all. Make sure that you stay tuned. Like It or Not is coming up next with Rebecca Azor. Good morning, y'all. Y'all stay tuned. More coming up next with the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Good morning, all.
Watch me rise. No more anchors holding me down. All I need is more. One more hour, one more minute, one more chance for me to win it. Yeah, I want more. Every time I dream, I catch it. I know how to make it happen, but I want more. Climbing every mountain, keep both eyes on the top. And nothing's gonna tell me to stop. Oh, push me through the fire. All I'm gonna feel is the heat burning underneath of my feet.
Mary C, good morning. That A, what's going on? That A, what's up? Six Dragon Daddy, what up, bro?
No more anchors holding me down. All I need is more. One more hour, one more minute, one more chance for me to win it. Yeah, I want more.
Y'all, crazy song. I mean, crazy story. I once had a hen that could count her own egg. Yeah, y'all know I'm from the country. So I had a hen that could count her own egg. She was a mathematician. What did yourself be? Good morning. Good peace, what's going on? Hey, Warner. I get this messed up every time, Jack. Good morning.
All I need is more. All I need is all I need is all I need is more. All I need is all I need is more. One more hour, one more minute, one more chance for me to win it. Yeah, more. Every time I dream, I catch it. I know how to make it happen, but I want more.
Y'all, I had to fire my fruit delivery driver today. I hate to let the man go, but he was driving me bananas. Like it or not, it's going down. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all stick around. Oh, Rebecca Azor is coming through. You know she got a good story for you. Oh, Benjamin, that's my dog. This is Filibuster remix coming soon. The Filibuster remix. Y'all ain't rolling back to bro. I am your DJ. DJ Exclusive. Y'all know who I am. I stay dropping them jams. Like it or not, it's going down.
Yes, James, the second coming of Keith Sweat.
Y'all still go.
Toasty, good morning.
Like it or not, it's starting now. Like it or not,
it's about to go down. Good morning, everybody. I think David missed it. Good morning, everybody. It's about to go down.
Like it or not, with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, and welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth. Oh, you're on mute in Zoom. No, we're not in Zoom. But there she go. We are here. Like it or not, Queen Azor is in the house. DJ Exclusive. We just switching the screens real quick to let her hit that microphone situation. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Man, it's a heavy day. That's why I'm glad to get to Like It or Not, to be honest with you, man. There's just too much going on in the world. Sometimes we just got to breathe in here. So thank you for carrying the load. Sister Rebecca Azor, Queen Azor is in the house. How goes the day?
Good. Can you hear me?
There we go. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Coming all in like a radio personality. We hear you.
Do we still have Dr. Mac in the house?
Voice, God bless me with, the voice.
The voice, girl. I hear that.
Hey, Dr. Mac.
Hey, Queen. You're looking beautiful this morning.
Right.
Thank you.
She's giving me performance hair, like she's about to go sing on somebody's stage somewhere.
Turning.
I mean,
right.
I just gotta say, I from now on, I just gotta say, Queen, you're looking queen.
Thank you.
You know what?
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. DJ Exclusive looked like he's somewhere in the astral plane with the universe above you, with the clouds and the lightning and the thunder.
Yeah, I love that he did that. I like that. I want to do that in my when I get a second room, child. But that in there, because it's I like how you put, because I know you posted how you did it up on was it TikTok last year sometime?
Right.
I really like it. It just looks very I know that it goes with your music too. Is it attached to when you play music?
Like doing the patron parties and everything, man. The whole thing is just flashing and everything. So it's
that's right.
It's a whole vibe here. The half camera doesn't do it justice. If I could adjust and show y'all the whole ceiling, because it covers up the entire ceiling.
Oh man,
I think the DJ is looking like a black mythological god.
I
like that, Dr. Matt.
DJ Zeus exclusive. I love it. Hey, listen. We got so caught up in all the international stuff, Dr. Mac. Something when we should never do. I don't care what's happening on the international stage. We're supposed to always start with Black history, but we obviously understand what's happening in Ukraine took us off the record. So why don't we start here? Hey, Google, what happened today in Black history?
On February 24th, 1870, Susan Maria Smith became the first Black woman licensed to practice medicine in the state of New York. Smith was born on March 7, 1847, in Weeksville, New York, now Crown Heights, Brooklyn. She graduated with an MD from New York Medical College for Women. This accomplishment made her the first Black woman in New York State and the third Black woman in the history of America to receive an MD, following Rebecca Lee in 1864 and Rebecca Cole in 1867. Adapted from Black Heritage Day 4 calendar by author, lecturer, and civil rights activist Dr. Karl Mack.
You put a name off them credentials, girl. Feel for it.
That's what
nothing I need to say about that, sister.
I just I'm just amazed at how much I don't know about my own history, to be honest with you. Like,
because CRT in the white version, you know what I'm saying?
Come on,
because
come
what
on,
they
somebody.
taught us in schools was never ever supposed to be something where we understood that Black people created a lot of what we use in our everyday life. Things that save our lives every day. I would have never known about this woman too. There are a lot of people that I don't know about, except for the basic four, right? That they teach us about. And to me, what we learned in school, my God, today, tomorrow, and the next. Listen, I need y'all to understand what we learned in school is a version of critical race theory to me, because it's white folks putting upon us their history, and it ain't even true, to be real with you. Ain't even true, right? But their history, they're putting that upon us and in our heads. So I absolutely love that. I just learned about this woman, and what's her name? Because I want to write it down so I make sure I go in.
That's a good
Susan Maria McKinney Stewart.
Oh, here's my calendar. Now, yesterday I tried to grab my calendar and I knocked my whole camera off.
Susan Stewart, and so the thing that you walk away, the nutshell that you walk away is she's the first black woman to be a licensed physician in the state of New York. That's number one. Number two, there were two other women before her that received an MD, and that was Rebecca Cole and Rebecca Lee. So she was the third Black woman overall in the history of this country to receive an MD. Absolutely phenomenal system.
And you can find out more.
Who used her practice to give back to our community and provide that level of health care to our community that obviously was waning because of discrimination and racism and the likes. So
you can find out about all the knowledge that we don't know. Because, I mean, real talk, what I love about this, though, what I love about not knowing something is if I learn it, now I know it. So when I'm done with this calendar, I'm gonna know my Black history.
Well, being and Queen and DJ, the thing that I'll tell you is this: when I started going through it and just learning about all these things, these people were just coming out of nowhere. And when you begin to understand what was happening in America at that time, it just made their accomplishments even more so. So being the one thing I would tell you is that even though I wrote the calendar, I still, and that's the reason I made it perpetual, so that I could use it year in and year out. Because even though I'll go through it again the next year, it's as though I missed something and I learned something a little deeper. So I hope that you'll use it year in and year out. So
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And shout out to you, Dr. Mack, for that, because
I sent you all copies of BHD as well. So.
Yes, mine is sitting on my coffee table in my living room.
Mine is right next
shout out to you,
to my
Dr. Mack.
Yeah, mine is on the.
But I would tell you this, and Queen, I would tell you this: when I did BHD 1, it was like your first love, and I didn't think that I could ever learn something about my Blackness and feel that way ever again. Because when I did this calendar, I didn't have the feeling I had for the first one. But I'm gonna tell you this, Queen. I'm finishing up the all women's calendar. And if we as Black men ever want to fall to our knees in honor of the courage, strength, sacrifice, and all that embodies you all, this Black women's calendar humbled me at a level. It took me to a place of love for my people that I ain't been to since I first ventured into Black history. And I can't wait to give it to you and let you see a lot of the pages. As a matter of fact, if you would like, in the upcoming month, because March is Women's History Month, I'd like to send you the entire month of March. And then when you feel that you want to throw one of your sisters up on the page, as you feel, you'll be able to do that for the month of March. Queen.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh, I can't wait.
But you got to get a Hey Google, because Alexa tripping.
No.
I can read it myself from what you're sending me.
Because the all women's calendar has not been seen by anybody. So Queen,
exclusive.
You will have it
exclusive.
You are exclusive to it, Queen. So
thank you.
You be the voice yourself.
And Queen, I'm gonna say this: you'll be able to do Women's History Month unlike anybody else in the world. Nobody is going to be able to do Women's History Month every day. Black women. That's what you will have the opportunity to do. So
thank you so much. And that's exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'll do. I absolutely can't wait to have that in my hands and utilize that right here on the show.
I'll send you all 30 days of, or however many days in March. You'll have every day of March that features a unique sister and what she accomplished. And it's your world, Queen. It's your world.
And trust me,
world, baby girl.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we do real good with it. I make sure that I'll do real good with it, especially on this show. And we'll make sure that everybody knows exactly the work that you put in to shine a light on these women. Because like you said, there are a lot of women that I wasn't privy to before, even reading your calendar and even just doing research in the last few years. And I'm just like, wow, Black women really, they've done a lot and get no recognition for a lot of the things that I use every single day in my life. And I yeah, so I'm excited about that. Let's rock that out. Let's make it happen.
Right.
Facts.
It's gonna be real cute next month.
What you got in that glass, Rebecca? What you got in that
water,
glass?
but look, I'm holding it like it's tequila or something.
Like it's a whole cocktail.
You know how
Black girl, you know that
you see, it's water. Black folks, every time they got ice in the cup, no matter what, it's like you just gotta shake it to make it better. You just gotta shake it. You just gotta shake it. I'm like, why?
It's the caffeine got my hand shaking. It's all the damn caffeine I have.
Listen, but when you got ice in the cup, but why do you shake it to make it better? Do you what does that do? Like I always
you got to stir up the sauce at the bottom. That's getting the high fructose corn syrup at the bottom.
Invoking the spirit of the ancestors to come through and just bless the cup that you got. It's
Hakuna Matata. Shut up about us.
It's like,
we haven't done that one in a minute. Medulla oblongata. No, it's not. Wait, how far away is your Hotep hat, Rebecca?
Oh, I gave that back to the will of good. I did a cleansing in my bedroom because, man, like I love to thrift. I like to thrift. So on top of like buying stuff like clothes from like stores and online, I thrift a lot. And that's where I got my Hotep hat. But I said somebody really be good with this hat. But I have like 3 more in the closet.
You guys have to see. People have to see that clip when Rebecca pulled out on the show. She brought out one of the queens of the Isles of Nefertiti, a Hotep hat, and then she just started going.
It took us out. I think both of us fell out, man. That day.
I didn't see it coming.
We're just not ready.
Because y'all know, I don't know why I literally just had that available in that moment, but it was there.
God wanted you to pull it.
He did. He had it. He was just ready. And yeah, but y'all know I'm real silly too. So I wanted to talk about this real quick. I know this is not part of the
lineup.
Yeah. Just sorry. I just needed to read what David put in there to make sure that it wasn't something that whatever. But yesterday it's like about the 11 points of Rick Scotty, but he put something about being woke, right? And I know as a Black person, Black person, I know as being a Black person, we amongst our table and our family of Black people will have the conversation and we'll say, you a little too woke. Like you, and I know that I've said many a time, sometimes so woke that you're asleep. Like sometimes y'all really just be wanting to say, I'm so black, not understanding what this particular Black story is about and how to apply it to your lifestyle. You just want to say, I'm so Black. I'm Black. And it's crazy to me. But when white folks get in the conversation and start using the word woke and say, this is what Rick Scott said in his 11-point policy that he wants to actually make concrete. On top of naming continuing to build the wall and naming it after Donald Trump. But he said, we need to separate ourselves from this woke idea and align that with CRT. And people want to say that isn't racist. Whenever a white person uses woke in that context, to me, it's pretty racist. It's very, I just kind of I don't like that they have attached anything Black Lives Matter, anything that has to do with us wanting to put out our Black history as being woke. That it's Why does it have to be associated with us being woke? Why can't we just want our Black history? Why can't we have that conversation? And then in the same breath says, we need to do away with race. In the same breath says we need to do away with race, but doesn't want us to talk about our Black history, associates it with being too woke, or not even too woke, just woke. And I've heard, the other day I stood in Target and I was just standing there. And remember, I told you there's a little section right in my predominantly white area of the Black History Month
the
clothing.
woke section.
Yeah, a little Black section, and the white folks just pass it by. This time I said, let me go, because I went in there to go look for some new tights and some workout clothes, and it's expensive over there at the Target, baby. It's expensive, honey.
Right.
But so I went and did a U-turn. I said, let me go look back at the Black History Month clothes, and I just stood there. And I see this white little girl laughing. She laughing. And then I see her mama with the bob. Okay. I see her mama with the bob who was laughing.
The Karen bob.
Yeah, who's laughing, but saying, why don't we have a month?
Bitch.
Listen, why do they have to have a month? And she's saying that. And the thing about Tarjay, I don't want her to know my presence is pulling up. Thing about Tarjay, the cart's smooth. You know what I'm saying? It don't do that. So I just start, my best friend's on the phone. So I whispered to her, I said, girl, let me tell you. So I put her on speaker. I know after I tell her what's going to happen, she's going to go off. She's on speaker. I said, there's this woman in front of me. And while I pull up, finally, I let her know my presence is there. Because I'm like, girl, on the phone. She turns around and the girl goes, Mom, somebody's behind us. She goes, so what? I don't care. She walks around to the other side and says, so what? I don't care. Then why isn't there a day for us? I told my best friend while I was standing there, girl, she's asking why there isn't a day for us. Best friend goes, bitch, y'all not all the time. Don't be asking about no days. She was going off on the phone. And I made sure I walked to the other side. I held my phone out. I said, you are on speaker, Dina, but I was looking at the lady in the face. She's still going off. She's going off. She's like, no, we're going to have this moment. You can't take away this moment from us. We can't have nothing with you guys complaining. But every other day is about you. Everything that's created is about y'all. This whole thing is about y'all. You can't take that. She was going off. And after she went off, I looked that white lady in her face and I just walked away. Because I'm like, you know what? It sucks that they look at everything that we do. They associate it with being too woke. Us having clothes inside of a store bothers them. Me just being Black bothers them. Me getting my nails done, but still being able to talk about international issues on platforms where they never thought they would see me on. Me wearing my hair a different kind of way every 3 days is problematic. It's too woke, right? They won't listen to what we have to say. They won't let us shine in our Blackness. They won't let us, tap into the actual history, even the things that they utilize when they're sitting on the toilet and they're using the toilet roll, the paper roll.
Yeah.
That's the Black person that created that peanut butter that they love to put on their bagels in the morning, right? That the Black person we're talking about, they do not want us to know these things. These are things that we should have learned in elementary, in school, period. But they don't want us to know this.
Queen,
I don't want
I would put it this way, Queen. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think about it until you alluded to it. But a white person using woke is the equivalent of saying all lives matter.
Hello.
I had white supremacy is so nefarious. I had somebody in our space, I'm just going to say in our space, who didn't like the fact that we used to, remember we were doing the morning trap for however long we did it. And we used to call it your get up is wake up, stay woke morning show. And they're like, oh, we don't want to say woke. Where's this woke? Nah, excuse me. It almost came out. Nah, brother. No, we say what the hell we want to say around here. If it makes you uncomfortable, this ain't your space. Sorry, y'all. Every now and then, see, my camera went out. See, God don't want me on the show today.
The fans watching. The fans, oh no! Put a plug on them. Put a plug on them. Too woke, that Negro. He's too woke. Pull the plug.
Too woke. HWOKE, baby. Too woke. Listen, I think that if we don't And we're not all of the people on this show, on this particular platform, and even the Black people that I associate myself with, we are not just woke on this month, but this month allows us to, because now the white folks are listening. This allows us to be able to drop,
white folks.
It allows us to drop our history and be like, we're going to really hit you with everything Black. Not that we didn't do it the month before or the month after. Not that we're not gonna do it the month after, but it's just the fact that now you're listening. It's almost like in Christmas time, right? And I watched when I worked in retail how white rich people would always give in that time. The next month that came, they wouldn't do nothing. They would stop holding doors for folks. They wasn't giving them the money. They wasn't giving them their leftover foods in front of the building anymore. They don't do that. But during Christmas time, they would always give because they felt like they would be blessed for giving. Now, when Black History Month comes along, a lot of, I'll see a lot of white folks hold the door for me. Doing a good deed for the Black girl, right. Stuff like that. It be stuff like that. We see all our favorite retailers and companies start throwing kente cloths on things. You see what I'm saying? This is what happens. So now, since you're listening, we're going to drill inside of you the Black history. Since you're listening.
Oh, the watered down Black history. No,
we're not going to water it down. We don't give it to them watered down. We give.
Oh, no. I think I lost track of your story. You were talking about us, not them. Okay, I'm with you now. All right.
Yeah. So
I'm with you. My bad.
It's just been. I'm just
all hearts and minds are clear.
I am somebody's auntie.
Right. I just look like I'm gonna look like somebody's uncle. I'm just like, damn, I am somebody's uncle. Huh? Lips black with a black and mild, hang out my lips.
This is the Black experience that you're gonna get in the morning time show. I can tell you that much, damn it. But I just want to. I know Rebecca gets uncomfortable when I do this, y'all, but I was so proud to see Rebecca on the Hill Rising yesterday, handling her business. They don't see her coming, but they definitely felt her when she left. Y'all give it up for my sister from another mister, Rebecca Azor.
They called me this morning. I said, I got a show. I said, I got a show.
They're trying to get you back, Rebecca?
They call me. They be calling me every day. But I have a show, sweetie. I told you, Mondays only. Love you, be there.
Okay. I'm
over there. I pay. So
I think when I saw
this
you
is my job.
yesterday, you kind of brought that Love Jones. Isn't that a Love Jones kind of thing?
Because I'm from the church. If you let me, I'll be out here. So I'm trying to act like I ain't a church boy and do this.
All right. We got
can't just regular clap.
I got it from you, James. You did it on the show one day, and I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. See, now that's what I get for taking the lead.
Man, y'all know I do stuff on this show.
Good to you. When it feels good to you, when it's poetic, when you're feeling it and you're shining it.
Rooter to the tutor.
But it's like it's like a different,
Chitty bang, bang, bang.
I think I got to tilt my head over that.
Mm-hmm. That makes it real Black.
This is damn light skinned people. Always let me stop.
I want to know what is the occasion that you wearing a tie today?
I know.
Right.
I feel so about
Dr. Mac up here. I'm like, damn, Dr. Mac.
Okay. And I got on a damn hoodie. I was like, wait a minute.
What the hell?
I had on a shirt and tie. I had on a suit and tie yesterday and Grace jogging pants. And then I come on this morning and Brother Mac got on a tie. And I'm like, well, damn, now I look like I don't know what I'm doing here. I look like the unprofessional.
That's because I saw you with the tie on yesterday. And I thought to myself, maybe if I put a tie on, it may restrain me from telling somebody when a situation occurs, the next time that mystical, magical. It calmed me down a little bit. So,
No, you're right. You're right. What we wear kind of does lean towards how am I feeling that morning. So, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'll see people out my ass don't put on. Y'all ain't ever catch me in no certain time. I'm sorry. I know y'all mean it.
Wait. We did on one episode. When you did the musical feature. You brought your homeboy. You brought the artist in.
I got to tell you, I think the other thing that hit me was, I think Letter Hack was messing with my psyche. When we all had the award ceremony, and Letter Hack had us up there, and we were all looking, in tuxedos and after, we had the sisters had the gowns. We were looking all formal. I think somewhere letter hack you got inside my head right there. And I woke up this morning because I was asking myself, why am I getting a tie? And I kept seeing that image that you put up there, letter hack. You
look good in your tie. You look good in your tie. And Ben, you look just like that the other day.
Looking like the whole FBI agent.
Y'all gotta understand something.
He was Secret Service.
Listen, that's how I dress on a regular basis. But this morning, like I was out at the at my meditation spot, and I was arguing with the world, so I just did not have enough time to put on some real clothes. But I just saw a video that I think we should talk about.
Rebecca,
I don't know what you mean. It was
there was a lot going on in that clip.
It was giving me a show. It was giving me a movie, a cinematography.
Is my mama gonna call me in the middle of this clip, James?
No, it's not. So, y'all a background story. Over the weekend, I went to Florida for a birthday party. DJ'd a 50th birthday party for a good friend's mom, basically my second mom as well too. So one of our friends and a friend of their family that's like a brother, every time we do an event or a party, we always end up singing against each other, doing some kind of karaoke. So when he came over to the DJ booth, he was like, Bub, let me get the microphone. I'm like, wow, what you about to do? He was like, man, you know I'm about to sing. I'm like, okay, here we go. So he kept asking me for this song all night long. And he's like, Bub, man, play the song. And I'm like, okay, I'll play the song. So once I started playing, he got up on stage getting ready to sing. I'm like, oh, okay, I know what I'm about to do. So I got my ass from behind the DJ booth, and this is what happened.
Challenge.
Not his shoes being tight.
Come on, New Edition.
Bubba got clothes on.
You gotta sing, Bubba. Oh, he's singing for real. Not the good knee. Not the good knee. We got it all hanging out. Oh man, where's the rest of it? I was waiting for the bridge.
Yeah, man, it was a short clip. I was just like, okay.
There it is, Dr. Matt. That's why you do that. We pull back the Love Jones thing. Man,
right.
May I have the confidence to wear my belly out like that at the beach one day? That's some confidence. I love
my belly out in the streets like that one day.
I need that.
Hey, look,
be ready, body out.
When I went to Jamaica, I had no choice. So it was like you got to take all your clothes off in one beach. So I had no choice. So yeah.
Oh, was it like a nude beach?
I refuse to answer the question on the grounds that it might incriminate me.
But yeah, no. But
praise the Lord.
Yes, so it was like a nudist resort, basically. Yeah.
I think I would do a nudist resort nowadays.
I'm here for it.
I don't want to see
There's a lot going on.
Hanging. Like
you gotta be we gotta go to the after party to finish that conversation because you gotta be prepared to go to the. You can't just pull up.
See everybody swinging and hanging on the beach, baby. I just
you gotta make
included. Look.
And when I tell y'all, it was a senior citizens convention. Oh my Jesus!
No.
I don't white that means we're going to the after party.
Boobs be looking like eggplants. I can't
liver spots and low hangers. That's all you see. Liver spots and low hangers.
No.
Oh man, liver spots
and low hangers.
And the spider veins. Look, and
the spine.
The varicose veins.
A certain group of people, but that
this is ageist, isn't it?
It's because I was gonna say, you know what, girls like me, I'm a slim, tall girl. I got stretch marks. I got we all got our little blemishes and things like that. But I'm still fine though, and I'm gonna be on the beach, real out there. It's gonna be backs and wax in the summertime.
Backs and wax.
Can't wait for it.
David said that's enough.
Yeah, they ain't care. It was looking like they was living in the wild. But I digress. After party coming up next.
After party, I'm gonna fix my camera.
On Friday morning, for those of you who are coming to the after party. For everybody else, see you at the party.
Right.
I'm cute.
Come on, one shot, Rebecca. All right, y'all. After party is starting up next, man. We thank y'all so much for joining us this morning. We hope that y'all enjoyed the show like we did. Your affirmation for the day is, coffee. Your affirmation for the day is, I can accept the lesson that my pain is trying to teach me. Okay, you better say that. I can accept the lesson that my pain is trying to teach me. Y'all can be great, man. Love y'all. Mean it.
Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop.